Hi everyone. I know it's day 3. It's getting a little tiring. I know that WhatsApp messages are waiting for all of you. So I've taken the liberty to be here than be on stage so that we can discuss, we can talk, we can learn with each other. I hope that's okay with all of you. Great. So my topic, if you all understand, is a little hatke. You know, when I saw the list of speakers, when I saw the list of topics, it was all about technology, disruption. So I thought we'll take a little bit of a softer aspect of AI. And as all of us know, we are in what we call the fourth industrial revolution, where the physical, digital, and biological worlds are actually coming together. So how do we look at the softer aspects of what I call resurrection of life? A lot of people are not happy where they are and the way the planet is actually moving. So can AI be the panacea for that? My name is Rohit, and my second name is easier to remember. It's Adlakha, which basically means 50,000 for people who understand Hindi. I am an independent advisor to multiple companies, predominantly startups in the area of AI, cybersecurity, collaboration, health and wellness. And I spent a little bit of time in a company called Wipro, if you're familiar with them also. I spent close to 26 years in that company. And when I left that company, I was playing very, very interesting roles. I was a chief digital officer, I was a CIO, and I was also leading automation and AI for the company. So 3 CXO titles when I moved out of the company. So without further ado, let's start, and I thought I'll make it a little more interactive. So we'll first take a snapshot of what the world is right now. And I'm not sure if those numbers are visible, but what happens in this digital disruption world of 1 internet minute? So in 1 internet minute, Google, there are 5.7 million searches. WhatsApp, there are 44 million WhatsApp messages sent. E-commerce, Amazon alone, $300,000 of transactions are done. Netflix, 452,000 hours of streaming in 1 internet minute. That's what the disruption is all about. But then this is all external to us. What do we do? Any guesses from the audience? How much of data one human comes out with in 1 internet minute? Anyone? Ma'am? Any guesses? Any guesses? "102 MB of data we generate every human every minute." And the interesting aspect is that out of a global population of about 7.8 billion people, we have close to 5.2 billion smartphones and roughly the same number of people who are actually surfing the internet, 75% of them through the mobile phone. So the mobile device, which they say is 27 devices into one, faster than the supercomputer of the 1950s, everything is available in the palm of your hands. And the interesting fact is that in a world economy of $80 trillion, we have companies which have become bigger than countries. So if you look at Apple, which started off perhaps 13, 14 years back with the famous iPhone and of course the Mac, is now an ecosystem by itself. You have Apple Music, you have Apple Payments. Look at Alphabet, the parent company of Google. So apart from all the fantastic things that Google does, they have healthcare, they have telecom, they have augmented reality, they have automated cars. And then of course, if you look at Amazon, the famous bookstore story, moving to groceries, moving to assistants, moving to so many other technologies. And these are companies which have a market cap of more than $1 trillion. So if you look at Apple, more than 2 trillion. And the only traditional company giving them a run for their money is Saudi Aramco, which is again 2 trillion in market cap, but the rest are all digital companies. So that's the world we're living in. Good context to set, and I'll move a little faster. I've also put in the near future, what are the technologies which are going to shake the market, which are going to disrupt us? So the mobile phone is already disrupting us. At an average, people are spending 6 to 8 hours, some even more, 24 hours. But if you look at each of these technologies and the players on the right, which companies are actually investing, 5G, 40 times faster than 4G. Of course, there are people in Norway who are piloting 8G, so you can imagine in what speeds we are actually talking about. But if you look at 5G, for example, you look at Internet of Behaviors, we are being tracked as humans. What we do, what we surf, what we eat. Of course, we are very vociferous in what we put on Facebook and other social media. But the fact is that we are being tracked for every movement, every behavior of ours. If you look at tactile VR, virtual reality, which is touch, smell, senses, all put together through virtual reality in what we're calling the metaverse. Human augmentation, people are building what we call the brain net. So now you can download your brain. Brain has 2.5 petabytes of storage, and it has 86 billion neurons, give and take. People are now being able to download the brain and create memories and store your memories, BrainNet. And then, of course, cybersecurity, everyone's talking about that. People are using quantum packets to send data, and little bit of noise, which is infiltration, you're able to catch it. What is common denominator for each of these technologies? Artificial intelligence. So AI, which was there in the 1950s, invented by what a person called John McCarthy, who basically said that how do we build in intelligence in machines? That is now becoming the common denominator for all of us in life. A few numbers, 2024, not too far off, 500 billion in terms of AI investments. 2030, again not too far off, 15 trillion worth of impact that AI is going to make. And last, of course, there was this famous saying of water, water everywhere, nor a drop to drink. And now we have robots everywhere. You name it, robots are there in our life almost everywhere. So right from warehouse robots, which Amazon already has, to kitchen robots, especially in China where it can actually cook for you, to agriculture robots already there in terms of machines, smart manufacturing, what we call, Internet of Things or smart manufacturing 4.0, robots are already there. So AI is driving literally every sphere of our life. But then there is a very ominous picture, and I've actually put this slide in black because people think more about the negative aspects of AI than the positive aspects. So let's look at questions which are there in our minds. Will machines become super intelligent and humans lose control? This year, 133 million jobs may get created, but 75 million jobs will also become defunct. So people of my era, in terms of what we used to call desktop entry agents, gone. Customer service, gone. Data analytics, in terms of human intervention, gone. Training data, machines. So if you look at it, there is AI and robotics and automation everywhere. The second question, will AI be ethical? And there is this big debate of one camp, which is Elon Musk, and the other camp, which is Stephen Hawking and Bill Gates. So the question is, will it be legal? Will it be ethical in terms of what AI does? And last, of course, there are many countries which are using data against its own citizens. So what you do, where you move, how you behave, where you can go, can AI data be compromised? And can you become a victim of technology? And of course, there is a nightmare scenario in the bottom which says, will singularity happen? It's touted that by 2030, machines will become smarter than humans. They are in many ways already. But people are talking about extermination, slavery, extinction of the human race. Those are nightmarish scenarios. So if this is the thought in terms of disruption of positive technology and thoughts which are looming large, let's dig a little deeper into AI. The first is people are talking about AI ethics or AI fairness. AI fairness is a subset of ethics. Ethics is a very large question. So people are saying that AI should focus on fairness. And just like we sign a code of conduct when you join a company, there should be an AI code of conduct for companies, for individuals, whenever they see the data. Now, I'm not sure how many times you download an app from Google Play or Apple iStore, and there are terms and conditions. 40 pages, 50 pages, I don't know how many of you have read it. But there are confidentiality clauses, there are data protection clauses. We just sign blindly because we're in a hurry to order the next 10-minute delivery for ourselves. So the fact is that can there be a code of conduct which is global, applicable for everyone? The third piece is that how does AI become more humane? And it starts looking at the social well-being of a human rather than just efficiency and economy, which is what we're looking at AI for. And last, diversity. Big issue. There are questions in terms of diversity and inclusion in corporates. In India, for example, roughly 35% of the workforce is comprising ladies. People are wanting to push it to 50% plus. If you look at biases which are creeping in our minds, we would want AI to be devoid of that. So how do you look at a larger representation when you train data, especially in semi-supervised scenarios or supervised scenarios, and how do you make AI more diverse? Big questions. So let's look at three sets of society, what they're doing. First are governments. I was reading yesterday, there are 44 countries which have national AI policies. Amazing. I didn't know that. That was a first one for me. And if you look at robos like Sophia, which came about 5 years back, and the first robot to be given citizenship by Saudi Arabia, very interesting fact. So let's see what governments are doing, and I'll take 3 examples. The first one is Singapore, not too far from India. They have 5 facets, 5 pillars for driving their national AI policy. The first one is what they call the triple helix. We know of the double helix, now this is the triple helix. So they have brought in academia, the government, and corporates together to drive AI. Second, plethora of data. How do you manage all of this data? I don't know how many of you know, but Singapore is building what they call a Singapore brain, which will control the entire city, the entire country. So right from building management to potential epidemics to traffic management, they're actually building a brain for that. Third, Singapore knows that it's one cyber organism, this entire world, 7.8 billion are all together. There are no boundaries of countries as far as data is concerned. How do you collaborate with others? There is trust and, of course, talent and education in terms of how do you skill people more and more. So this is AI in Singapore. Let's look at a country which is more in the news nowadays, UK. UK released its national AI policy, and they have spent about 2.3 billion pounds sterling in the last 8 years into AI. And they want to make UK the biggest AI-driven economy. Closer home, Niti Aayog, if you're familiar, 2018, we had the national AI policy, or what they call AI for all. And 5 areas: healthcare, education, agriculture, smart cities, and smart mobility. So every country has a national AI policy because they understand the importance of what it can happen. A lot of us work for corporates. Let's see what companies are doing. First of all, corporates are building AI as part of the corporate culture. So you have a code of conduct, you have culture, you have values, you have vision, you have strategy. People are now building what we call the AI culture, where there's a common conviction for all. And very interestingly, there are 6 sets of people that have been defined, and you want to build trust amongst each one of them. Senior management, the CXOs. People are now having a formal designated person of what they call the Chief AI and Ethics Officer. And if you look at Levi's, I'm sure a lot of you wear Levi's clothing, a company which is more than 150 years old, actually has an AI officer. And in our past avatar in Wipro, we actually did business with them through AI. We, of course, have the build teams, the actual people who build the solutions in terms of data scientists, data engineers, all your engineering teams, the business teams, which are customer facing, and of course, the policy making teams. But the critical part is point number 4, which is how do you measure success of AI in a company? Which means how much a percentage of bias is there, how much of value creation you're able to do, what's the quality and source of data that you're managing. So we covered governments, we covered corporates. What does it mean for all of us individually? So the first good news, of course, there are many good news. The first good news is that there are enough roles for us to do despite the thought of AI taking over our jobs. So irrespective of background, there is job for each one of us. Let's look at some of the more interesting roles which have come up in the area of AI. The first, of course, we need domain experts. So if you're working in a banking field, you're working in healthcare, you're working in telecom, you need people who understand the domain, the technology. All of us have a good role there. Second, if you've heard of Simon Sinek, he always professes what I call it the why, what, and how. So the why in terms of product designers, people who design products with human experience. The what, which is basically your data scientists, how do you manage the data, statisticians, mathematicians, and the how piece, which is basically data engineers on how they do it. There is also a very interesting set of roles in terms of AI ethics and sociologists. So if you thought that sociologists don't have a role in AI and technology, here is a surprise for you. We then, of course, have lawyers. I don't know if people have heard of robo-lawyers, which are already there. But especially with GDPR, especially with CCPA, especially with Data Protection Bill, Privacy Bill of India, you are going to have the need for lawyers who will actually talk about data privacy, litigation, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of lawsuits, especially when AI becomes a little more prevalent. I also want to talk about the HR leaders. People thought that they're here to draw up salaries, make appraisals, build policies, but HR and AI are going to go in hand. And in my previous avatar in Wipro, we actually used AI for screening resumes and profiles. Very, very manual job, as we call it, but through intelligent screening, through data labeling, through data annotation, through intelligence, you're able to screen profiles. We did mock tests. People were actually talking to a robo into a screen rather than a physical interview. The offer letter generation, we actually did it through AI. The entire onboarding process, we were able to collapse through automation and AI. The retention process, especially in appraisals, where whether you filled an appraisal correctly, whether your manager has filled appraisal correctly or not, AI was being used. And of course, how do you look at taxation? So for companies operating in 75 different countries, which is what Wipro was, how do you make sure of taxation? How do you make sure of employer rules? How do you make sure of insurance? Very difficult task beyond Excel. How do you manage that? So there is a role for all of us in this new world of AI. And if I were to just sum it up, if you're looking at redefinition of life, if you're looking at rejuvenation of life, if you're looking at resurrection of life, multiple hours, then AI has a role to play. And I see it truly as a symbiotic relationship where the leadership, the creativity, the humanness, the consciousness of human remains, and you're able to drive efficiency, economy, and experience through AI. And I'll give you a few examples if all of you are familiar with. I'm sure a lot of movie geeks are out here. So if you've seen the movie I, Robot, Will Smith and the Robo Sonny, symbiotic relationship. In the end, of course, he's very, very, very like a lot of humans are. If you look at Star Trek, Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, of course, he was not a robo, he was a Vulcan. But the fact is that someone who's very scientific, very logical, can actually complement the captain who's very, sometimes irrational, but very, very human in his decision making. If you look at Star Wars, You have R2D2, the midget robo, and then you have Luke Skywalker, who of course fights against Darth Vader in the end, his own father. And the fourth example, which a lot of people will be familiar with, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator, not one but in two, where him and John Connor, the child, actually become friends. So if we drive it ethically, if we drive it responsibly, if we drive AI transparently, clearly there is a massive positive role for all of us to play in this fourth industrial revolution. Thank you very much.